Hello everybody, this is Jack Dennis and welcome to our Jack Dennis Fly Fishing channel on YouTube. We're going to be talking saltwater here in the next few segments as we're going to be featuring Volume 2 of Jimmy Nix Tying Saltwater Flies. We did feature Volume 1, which included a lot of great bonefish patterns, but now we're going to the bigger fish. The fish that are sometimes as big as you are, tarpon and beyond. So Jimmy, maybe you don't know who he is, but Jimmy was one of the leading tyers 30 years ago to come up with innovating both bass and saltwater patterns. I really think you're going to enjoy taking a look back at where saltwater fly fishing came from and tying, and enjoy some scenes from Belize. But have fun with my friend Jimmy. It was only happened 30 years ago, but it's still timeless.
On Volume 1 of his Saltwater Fly Tying series, Jimmy tied and fished a variety of flies for bonefish, redfish, and permit. In this volume, Jimmy will tie an assortment of tarpon flies, including Nix tarpon shrimp, Stuap's furnace and red squirrel tarpon fly, the Nix Shanaboo mullet, and the closest thing to a real needlefish, the Key West Cuda Killer.
I'd like to show you how to tie Nix's tarpon shrimp. It's a tarpon fly that's been really good to me for a lot of years. I now tie this fly on a TMC 800S. I can't tell you how good a tarpon hook I think this hook is. You can also tie it on 34007. Use bleached to squirrel tail. That's a gray squirrel that's been bleached with Lady Clairol, believe it or not. But it's the absolute perfect saltwater color as far as I'm concerned. A trimmed hackle stem for what Flip Pallet calls a snarzle. What it does is it keeps the tail feathers from wrapping the hook shank. You guys that have tarpon fish know that a tarpon will not eat a fly that has a foul feather. A dyed grizzly feather. We're going to use capon necks. It makes a heck of a lot better tarpon fly than any other feather. 50-pound hard mason for the eyes. Now we're going to dip these in a dyed epoxy, put them on a rotisserie, and they just turn into the perfect shrimp eye. We're going to use flat waxed for the thread and root beer colored braided mylar. This is a new product that I just got from Frostbite, and it really is a wonderful color. Let me show you how to tie this fly. We'll put our flat waxed nylon right behind the eye of the hook. Put a jam knot. Keep our thread flat by spinning it counterclockwise. Wrap back to the bend of the hook. Okay, now that's almost just a little behind the barb of the hook on a TMC 800S. Okay, we're going to tie on a snarzle, which is a hackle that the fibers have been trimmed off of. We'll tie this right on top of the hook shank. Okay, and we'll come back here about 1.5 times the hook length and cut it off. put a little flex cement on that area and just run it all the way down the hook shank, the thread covering. We're going to cut 6 feathers. Now again, these are capons. And on a 3/0 hook, I do measure these because I want them exactly the same size. And I make them about 6 centimeters. That's not saying that a tarpon fly can't be a little longer or a little shorter. It's just what I like personally. Okay, we'll put the tips together on all of them, all 6 of them, and I'll just cut them all at the same time. Okay, lay them right on my ruler. Find that 6 centimeter mark, run my scissors in there, and cut them all off at one time. Now you want to know where I get my little snarzels. All the feathers that I just cut off, I can trim the fiber off of here, and that's what I use for the snarzels. So I'll save these and trim them later on. I lay my feathers on my leg. I'll put 2 little bunches, and I'll leave them up 3 on each side. It's just easier for me to even them up that way, and that's the way I've always done it. And we'll take one bunch, turn it over upside down, and match them. Be sure the butts are equal and that the hackles curve out to both sides. We'll mount them right on top of the hook shank, all at one time, and we'll tie back, lifting up on that hackle as we tie back, and tie back to the bend of the hook and back forward. Okay, there's a little trick here, and we'll pull these feathers out and down, and out and down. And this feather just is splayed out a little like I don't want it. So I'm just going to wiggle it and twist it just a little bit. And it'll lay right in there. Okay? Okay, we'll take our plastic shrimp eyes, or our epoxy shrimp eyes, lay them up here and measure them. One of them about, 1 body length in back of our tie-in area. We'll take our little zirons and mash that monofilament flat, and then clip them off where we've got enough to tie in. We'll put 1 on each side. And come back and tie the other one in. If you look at shrimp in the water, the most predominant feature are their eyes. And these may be a little oversized, but that's why I make them this size too, because I do want them a little oversized. Okay, come back and we can adjust these now before we cement them. Okay, we'll put flex cement in this tie-in area and let it soak in good. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in our squirrel. Now we're going to cut enough squirrel for the whole tarpon fly, and we're going to even that up in one bunch. Or we're going to put it on only 1/3 at a time. And clean out the trash out of the butt of the squirrel hair. Put it in our hair stacker. Couple of tamps. Okay, now again we're going to just take a third at a time. And first third we're going to lay in, it's going to be a little longer than our eyes, and it's about half as long as our feathers. On the far side, take a couple of loose wraps around there, tighten it, and then just lay your finger on there as you tie back. Okay, take the other third, tie it on the near side, and exactly the same length. Okay, and the last third. Same length right on top. And cinch it down. Okay, now we'll trim all this off at an angle. Very important to trim off at a nice precise angle. Otherwise, when we overwrap this, it'll be lumpy. A lot of times I'll take it out of the vise and trim it till it's nice and perfect. Let me rotate my vise around a little bit. Wonderful thing about a rotating vise. I don't know how I ever tied on vices that were not rotating vices before, but I did for many years. But this is a wonderful help to have these kind of vices. Okay, we'll overwrap going down, and we'll leave space between our wraps. It's not really important. A little drop of cement right on our first tie-in area. Okay, let me trim a little more of this hair off right here. I don't like the way it's sticking up. Okay. It's always a little mystery to tyers when they first start tying tarpon flies how to cover a big blob like that. Now let me show you. It's all done the same way. We'll start, we'll go up to that, and we'll come back down. Every time we do this, we're going back a little bit farther. Okay, we just keep climbing up the hill, and if you can't get over that little bump, we'll just go back down. And come back up. One thing you want to do is keep this thread flat. This is flat wax nylon. And you do that by just spinning it. When it gets twisted up and it's not flat anymore, you just spin it counterclockwise and it'll flatten right out. Okay, there we go. We got that the thread covered very nicely. I'm going to cut a piece of this braided mylar. It's a wonderful color, and like I said, this is a new product for me. Frostbite. And I got it at the Fly Tackle Dealer Show, and it just makes a beautiful fly. Okay, we'll tie this in. And we want that thread to come back just about the portion on the shank of the hook that's opposite the barb. And now we'll come forward all the way to the eye. Okay, and we'll just wrap after we put a little cement on there. Put some flex cement on there all the way around. Just a touch more. Okay, and we'll overwrap this with this braided mylar. Okay, we'll tie it off. Let's clip off the excess. Couple of ramps, whip finish. A little epoxy covering that, and boy, that'll be a shrimp that any self-respecting tarpon will eat. You know, a tarpon's a really hard fish to hook. It's got the toughest mouth of any fish I fish for. I'd like to show you how I was taught to sharpen a tarpon hook. It's worked for me, and I bet it'll work for you. First thing I do is I lay my file, and by the way, this is a mill bastard file. Lay it flat on the bottom of the hook shank, and I take some metal off. Not at an angle where you catch the point, but back in the bottom of the hook. Flatten that hook out. After you get it nice and flat, we'll work at a bevel on the far side, and we're going to sharpen this in a triangle taper. And now the near side. Now, a lot of times I'll catch the hook right in the back bend, right in there. I really don't worry about that unless it's severe, because I've never had a hook break back there on me yet. Okay, now come in easy when you're finishing that point off. Hit it nice and easy. Just a couple of real nice, easy strokes. If it hits in there and stops the filing, go back and get another angle. Okay. First thing we'll do is we'll check it on our fingernail. And if it slides anywhere on that fingernail without piercing immediately, it's not a sharp hook. This one's sharp. Let's tie a fly on it. I'd like to tie a meat and potatoes tarpon fly for you. This is a fly that I never go tarpon fishing unless I've got some in my tarpon box. It's a burnt orange color. It's got guinea side feathers.